The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited. Shabbat Shalom. Let's go.
Living in a strange land where we don't belong. Subjugated to sin, they required a song.
Shalom. Hit the like button.
They came to our shores, took us away. Once kings and queens, relegated to slaves. Oh, bring me home.
Hit the like button.
George, over the water, Jerusalem calling. She's a mother. I hear her calling for me. She's calling, exiled in Babylon, all alone.
It's out in Babylon.
It's coming to me, I'm remembering. It's in Deuteronomy. I'm praying to God, come set us free. Set us free. The nation's programmed our brains to look the other way. We were lost and ashamed. Living confused with no hope. Walk around with my head hanging low. Spirit was crying for change. Then you revealed your name. From the sides of the north, a strong wind carried me. I seen a vision of this beautiful land. In the midst of the wind, I heard the angels sing. Welcome back home. Welcome Zion. Welcome home, Zion.
That's right. Welcome, Zion. Welcome, Zion. We're this close, brothers and sisters. We are this close. Living in a strange land where we don't belong. That's right. We've always been subjected to sin, and they required a song. They came to our shores and took us away. Well, I'll play the rest of the song later, but we are about to go into a detailed lesson today, brothers and sisters. First and foremost, Shabbat Shalom to all of our brothers and sisters throughout the four corners of the earth, the Israelites, as well as the Gentiles who believe in what? Who believe in the one true God, the God of Israel, who sent His Son in the earth for the remission of sins. Ahaya is His name. Ahaya is His name. Come on in. Hit the like button. Please do us a favor. Hit the like button. Of course, you know they don't want us, getting promoted on the front page of this platform and all that. It's all good. But with your help, others will realize that we're actually streaming today. So I'm glad you're here. Hit the like button, please. Okay? Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Now, real quick, as you can see, there's a deep historical as well as biblical lesson we're about to go into today. All praises be to the Most High. There was so much material and information from last week's lesson that I couldn't leave out there in the midst of us going into a Middle Eastern war when it comes to the sons of Ishmael. I mean, the history was so, I would say, we were inundated with information and study to a degree where I said, you know what? I left a lot on the cutting floor, even though the last week's lesson was very, very detailed when it comes to Islam. But I left so much on the cutting floor that I thought that I would open it up for you brothers and sisters today to hear the information, I couldn't go into, being pressed by time. Okay, we taught like what, 3-4 hours, almost 4 hours of this lesson. But there was so much material, so much history on the cutting floor. I said, you know what? I need to make this lesson, I need to complete it here on a Sabbath. Even though it was complete and wrapped up, right? But I said, you know what? There's so much information. I need to share this. In the midst of what's going on in the Middle East right now, Arabs, Jews, battles that's going on, which is prophetic on a whole nother level outside of Christians' prophetic perspectives. Christians don't have no idea what that war is about over there. Okay? And we need to get it right and get that straight concerning how the Muslims are actually viewing that war over there. So that leads us to our lesson today. That's right, folks. That leads us to our lesson today. All right. 1 second here. That leads us to our lesson today. The Edomite, Ishmaelite conspiracy. Oh, yeah. You're going to want to like, share, and tell everyone you know about this lesson today. We're doing a biblical history lesson for you all today. We left so much on the cutting floor, a lot we taught, but I want to quantify this just in about an hour or so, just so there's nothing left out there this coming Sabbath concerning what's going on with the war. Right? Here we go. Someone says, the Bible Academy was off the chain last week. I watched it 3 times. Hey, well, I'm glad you're here. Right? And if you're not in that academy, you're missing it. Tomorrow we're going into the true purpose of a man according to God. Right? Because when we're on our purpose according to the Almighty, it doesn't matter what the other Gentiles and nations are scheming against us. Doesn't matter. When we're on code with God, our God, there's a moral standing that won't allow them to harm us. See, they need demonization before destruction. But if we get on code as far as our morality goes, now they can't use those negative optics to actually come against us. And we can navigate through their eugenics, which is their science. Anything they try to push on us through schools, we can ignore it and say, no, we have our own history. The only thing we need you to teach our children is what? Read, writing, and arithmetic. That's it. That's it. Okay? We don't need your social engineering in school. We don't need your indoctrination. We don't need your sex education. We don't need any of that. We don't even need your history. See, that's the key point of getting on code with our God. Because when we get on code with our God, we begin to operate, insulated amongst ourselves, supporting ourselves like we did in Israel. And of course, on top of that, if we were to get on code like that, folks, I'm going to tell you right now, folks, we would strangle the finances of the black and brown people who are coming over here undermining us. See? Christ stated, where your treasures are, your heart shall be also. Where your heart is, your treasures are. So what you spend your money into, that's what you truly like. Or that's what you truly have an infinity for. So if these people are destroying you, but yet you're still giving them your hard-earned cash, you're saying, yeah, I like this pummeling you're doing on our people, the destruction and the regenerification. So this is why they don't want us on code, folks. They don't want us on code because when we come with our purpose, you know what? We began to look at the whole worldview entirely different. And we're able to avoid their exploitations, them exploiting our people. But I digress. The purpose of a man tomorrow. See, when you're talking about the purpose of a man, you don't have to down women to speak and highlight what our purposes are. Christ didn't have a woman. Okay. All right. Paul didn't have a woman. And even though it's good to have a helpmeet if you have so much work to do, when you're on your purpose, you don't have to now put someone else down to highlight or to magnify yourself. You get on God's purpose, and it's a simple process getting a woman to get on code with you. It's that simple. Even though I don't agree with the feminism and what's going on and how they use that to actually destroy the simple and to actually make a toxic environment for our community, of course, I don't like that. But all in all, if we get on purpose with God, like anyone else, man or woman, guess what? You get down or you lay down. If you're not on purpose with God, you're not going to make it anyway. So if a man is on purpose with the Almighty and women or the community don't want to get down, they're going to lay down because judgment has already arrived in our communities. And it has arrived in the form of black and brown people. And I'm here today to set the record straight in case you have any idea, if you are confused, concerned with what's going on geopolitically in the earth to understand what's going on over there in the Middle East. I'm going to make it simple for you today. So to protect your family, your children. Because I believe the media has confused us. Have confused you. It's confusing. You're looking over the Middle East and saying, well, okay, they're bombing. This is our simple observation on the war. They're bombing Muslims, but they're allowing Muslims in the boatloads, by the boatloads into the country. See, that's confusing to us, right? Not after this lesson, it won't be. They're saying Al-Qaeda and Jack Bauer, 24, is out there unfoiling terrorist acts by Arabs, but at the same time, Arabs are running everything all up in our neighborhoods. They're coming in and getting subsidies under our civil rights program and all that. So that confuses us when we hear how the media is promoting terrorism and claiming that they're Al-Qaeda and a Mujahideen and all these others. But then in America, we can't get enough of them. Right? So that's confusing us. Right? Right? Like for instance, and I'm going to put it all together for you. Like for instance, stuff like this confuses us, right? Let me pull this up. Stuff like this confuses us. And yes, I want to say this also. As we're broadcasting, of course, they won't allow anyone to support this channel for some reason, even though we deal with the guidelines, right? I want to say if what we're bringing forth is helping you, the Bible says, of course, if we instilled in you our spiritual things, shall we not reap your carnal things, which is help? So if this is resonating with you as we go along, of course, they won't allow this channel to be supported like the other channels, okay? Our channels, for some reason, are perpetually in jail, right? There is a way in which you can support us on this particular banner you see before you, okay? That top one right here where it says classes, you can support us that way, or go to historytimes.org if you don't have Cash App. So just like you would support any other channel at any time, you can always use that top support Cash App thing right there and make sure that you help us out so that we can continue this work, right? So that we can further the work and open up more churches throughout the earth, okay? So let me go back to what I'm saying real quick, right? And again, historytimes.org for the academy. See, stuff like this confuses us, right? Let me pull this up. Let me pull this up for you right here. Stuff like this confuses us. Now, what we have here is a current address. Now, this current address is from the White House. Kamala Harris, in the midst of the Israeli-Palestinian war, right? Fair use. Matter of fact, I don't have to say that because this is government addressed, all right? I need y'all to understand this, right? This is Kamala. Now, they're not doing anything for our people, but I need y'all to hear this real quick.
And today, we take another important step forward in our fight against hate. For years, Muslims in America and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks. As a result of the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, we have seen an uptick in anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Semitic, and Islamophobic incidents across America, including the brutal attack of a Palestinian-American woman who was Muslim and the killing of her 6-year-old son. A senseless act of violence that the Department of Justice is investigating as a hate crime. For so many people in our nation, the past few days and weeks have brought about all too familiar fears. Fears that they will be targeted, profiled, or attacked simply because of who they are, how they worship, or how they look. And so today, I am proud to announce the Biden-Harris administration will develop our nation's first national strategy to counter Islamophobia. This strategy will be a comprehensive and detailed plan to protect Muslims and those perceived to be Muslim from hate, bigotry, and violence, and to address the concern that some government policies may discriminate against Muslims. For example, the so-called Muslim ban, which President Biden revoked on our first day in office.
Now, Islamophobia? Not once could they do an anti-hate bill when it comes to the black people or the tribe of Judah in America who have suffered more than any other people. It wasn't those who worship or the Arabs and others. It wasn't their numbers. That constituency didn't get Biden the White House. It was black people, predominantly black women, our sisters. But out of nowhere, millions of dollars going into a war. They use one act, one crime that they claim happened against a Palestinian to place in law anti-Semitic what you would call Islamophobia. They're making this stuff up. I don't know what that is. One act, when there's a whole war with buildings falling and all that with Palestinians in it right now. So this is confusing Americans. They can't do anything for us. But they can immediately get $100 and some odd billion to go towards the Israeli war right after the Ukrainian war. And I'm going to give you some information on that today. And nothing for our people who are suffering. Okay? Who's getting politically barred out, financially barred out of being able to exist. Inflation, cannot buy houses, getting put out of apartments. But you can pull all this money out for other people. Why? Well, I submit, according to the Bible, correct theology, that there's an Edomite, Ishmaelite conspiracy against the children of Israel. Let's break it down. I submit there must be a conspiracy. Because we've suffered under the hands of Muslims and Europeans throughout history. But there's no hate crime bill for us. There's nothing to politically protect us. There's resources and finances pumped into our communities, into our people in Africa and other places that are suffering. A matter of fact, if you look at what's going on with Venezuelans, if they didn't topple that economy and destroy that after the death of Chavez, there'll be no need for asylum seekers to come into America today. Our people are being destroyed throughout the four corners of the earth, and no one can understand it. This is a prophetic conspiracy, and I'm breaking it down. Okay. That's right. I'm breaking it down. Okay? I would say get your popcorn ready. No, get your unleavened bread ready for this particular breakdown today. All right? Get your matzah crackers ready. All right? Let's do it. And I want to take my time with this. Get your matzah crackers ready. Elder Lawyer, let's start off with the Hebrew Credo.
Yes, sir. Shema Yasha'Allah Ahaya Allahaya Nawa Ahaya Achad.
Shema Yasha'Allah Ahaya Allahaya Nawa Ahaya Achad.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one God, the God of Israel. Now, since we going into a conspiracy here, right? Let's first frame let's set the foundation with the characters. Right? Let's first set the foundation with the characters. Elder Lawyer. Now, what I need you to do, Elder Lawyer, I need you to get me the sons of Ishmael, right? I need you to get that. We just covered that in the academy. But before we go there, let's go to Genesis 17 first. Genesis 17, and thank you all for your support, brothers and sisters. I really appreciate that. Let's go to Genesis 17, right? And I'm going to Genesis 17 first, folks, because we're going to frame the characters who have conspired against us. First, starting with Ishmael. Ishmael was the first son of our father Abraham, right? And we already broke it down in the academy, okay? Abraham and Ishmael did not build a house in Mecca. Historically, that didn't happen, okay? That didn't happen. There is no holiday to celebrate the sacrifice of Isaac or the attempted sacrifice of Isaac. Historically, that never happened, but it's being celebrated as a holy day amongst the Arab world. I digress.
the attempted sacrifice of Ishmael.
Yeah,
for them.
the attempted sacrifice, of Ishmael.
Right.
They're trying to claim that there was an attempted sacrifice of Ishmael. Well, that was Isaac. That was Isaac, where the Most High stopped Abraham from what? Sacrificing Isaac. It was Isaac who helped Abraham build an altar for a sacrifice. He was a grown man when it happened. And that happened near the area where Christ was crucified. There was never a house built that we call this shrine of Mecca where Rock is today, which is a pagan temple today. So let's set the record straight first and foremost. All right. So here it is. Ishmael is already 13 years old at this point, Elder. Right? He's let me get this out of the way here. He's already 13 years old. Let's read Genesis 17:1 first, Elder Lawyer. We're gonna skip through this. We're gonna get the points and go straight to it, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's get when Abraham was 90 years old. Let's read it.
Yes, sir. The book of Genesis, chapter 17, verse number 1. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect.
Because at this time, the Most High's name wasn't revealed to Abram. He was called God Almighty, the God of all gods, the maker of all celestial beings. Okay? Now, when you go down here, Genesis 17, Elder Lloyd, we're going to jump right down to it. And let's go straight to him giving the promise. Ishmael, right? Abram's son by a handmaid, an Egyptian handmaid by the name of Hagar, is already 13 years old. At this time, Abram believes that Ishmael is the promised seed since it came through his loins. But now, our God is about to, the God of the Bible is about to throw a curveball. Hagar, the Egyptian, believed that she's going to eventually take Sarah's place once she dies, and believed that her son will become the Melchizedek of the earth, the king and priest, heir to promise. This is what? Ishmael, the father of the modern day Arab world. Okay? Remember that. So now our God is about to throw a curveball because Ishmael believes he's the child. Let's read. Let's start at 15.
Verse 15. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be.
Sarah shall her name be.
And I will bless her and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her.
I will bless Mama, Sarah. Read.
And she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her.
Read.
Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old?
How can a child be born to Sarah? She has no eggs. What's going on here? Read.
And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear?
He said, listen, there's nothing coming from me. I'm 100 years old, and Sarah have no eggs here. Read.
18. And Abraham said unto God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee.
So even Abraham begged that the father of the Arabs, he begged that the Most High would give the promise to the Arabs. Read.
19. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac.
His name what?
Isaac.
Read.
And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him.
And with his seed after him. A bloodline promise. That doesn't change through time. I'm setting the foundation so y'all can understand what's going on in the Middle East and how they're drawing us into it, what this is all about today. So the Most High made a contract with Abraham, a promise, and God is not a man that he should lie. Christians can't come around and say Jesus changed this. That's a lie. Christ came to confirm the promise, not to change it. He's from the promise. Christ came through this bloodline promise, this family. So Christians, get off this emotional thing, thinking that God changed the whole promise he gave to the Israelites and our patriarchs when Christ showed up. That's a lie from the pits of hell. And this is why you don't understand what's going on in the earth today. This is a bloodline promise, an agreement. Now, of course, Ishmael and Hagar, the mother, would feel slighted. Right? Right? So, let's see what Ishmael received.
Yes, sir. Verse number 20.
Read.
And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him and will make him fruitful and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation.
So the Most High, in a nutshell, said, don't worry. I'm going to make sure Ishmael is straight. He'll have riches. He'll have oil. He'll have empires. But he will not receive my covenant. See, that's crystal clear. See, but Ishmael felt slighted because under these rules, he cannot become Imam. See, he cannot become a high priest over the world. This is why they chose the dark side. See, you can't be a priest over a mosque under these rules. So they had to make their own. They had to come up with their own book, their own rules. And I'm going to go into that in a moment. Okay. They had to come up with this centuries later. After the Abrahamic covenant was already established, they came up with this in almost our modern times. This Muslim thing, this Islam thing. Now, Elder, we know how it goes. Right? Isaac comes on the scene, received the promise 1 year from the time the Most High spoke to Abraham. Boom, a new son is born. It tells us in the book of Jasher, when Isaac was when he was of age, Ishmael was trying to kill the boy. Him and Hagar, his Egyptian mother, was plotting to kill the boy so that by default he would receive the covenant. And our mother Sarah said, get out. Now, a lot of you don't know this. Hagar wasn't no regular woman. She was a princess out of Egypt. She was of royal blood, but yet she had to serve our mother. So when she went back to Egypt, she went back with all of the riches that Abram sent her back with and all of that. And they were what? They were of high elite regard when Ishmael and Hagar returned to Egypt. A matter of fact, some of the Pharaoh lines were, believe it or not, Arabs, Ishmael. Some of the Arab lines, some of the Pharaoh lines were that family. Where it's still that Abrahamic Shemitic blood ruling over there. Now, Elder Lawyer, let's jump right to the 12 princes that the Most High promised a blessing to. Because guess what? I have no problem with our God blessing other people. It's recorded in the Bible. But the Arabs weren't supposed to take that blessing that our God gave them and to use it to turn on us. We were family. So I have no problem that you own what you own. Our God said you would get that, but you don't get what belongs to us. And I'm here to set the record straight. Let's go to the sons of Ishmael real quick, if you will, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. The book of Genesis chapter 25, verse 13.
Yes. Genesis 25, verse 13, right? Let's read it.
And these are the names.
Matter of fact, let's start at the first verse so we can get just to get a foundation here.
Yes,
Read.
sir. Genesis 25 and 1. Then again, Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah.
So as you can see, it was promised that many nations would come out of Abraham. So he just didn't have a nation that would come through Hagar, which was the Arabs, right? He also would have other families in the Middle East that would be considered what? Shemites. Shemites. So when someone says anti-Semitism, it can't just apply to one family out of Abraham. It's all the children of Abraham are Shemites, which means if you do something against me, who's an Israelite, under that label, that would be considered anti-Semitism. If you did something against the Arabs unjustly, like Kamala is claiming, right? The anti-Islamic is Islamophobia, some name they done made up. There will be no need to make up a new phobia to protect them. They should be protected under anti-Semitism since Arabs are from Shem too. Abram is from Shem. We're from Shem. The so-called white man is from Shem. So when you go into the Bible, right, it shows here in Genesis 25, all the families, Keturah and others that came out of Abraham, who so happened to be Shemites, where they get the term Semitism from, or Semite from. It's a mispronunciation of the son Shem. It's not Sim, it's Shem. Right? So now let's go down to the Arabs real quick, if you will, Elder Lawyer.
Verse number 13.
13.
And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael.
Now remember, our God said that he would bless Ishmael's sons and make them a great nation. Right? Come on.
By their names, according to their generations, the firstborn of Ishmael, Nabojoth.
Nabojoth is what? The first son of Abraham, from whom Muhammad, or whom they call their prophet Muhammad, came out of. Nabojoth is the father of who? That's right. The tribes of Koresh. The tribes of Koresh that Muhammad came out of, Nabojoth is the father over that particular bloodline of Muhammad. And this is why they wanted the priesthood to go to Muhammad, because it's through the firstborn of Ishmael. This is why they started what you would call a priesthood through Ishmael's heir that became your imams today, that set up their pagan temples called mosques today. Nabojoth is the father of the Arabs who came out of Muhammad, who came out of the Koresh tribe. Koresh tribe is directly from Nabojoth. Read.
And Kedar.
Now, I need y'all to check this out, folks. Kedar. Because when you look at it in our modern times, it's Quadar with a Q. It's Quadar with a Q. Remember this Kedar as we unfold this conspiracy. Remember Kedar because it's the same as Quadar. It's Q-E-D-A-R in our modern times. It's with a Q instead of a K. Go on.
And Adbiel, and Mipsam, and Mishma, and Dumah, and Massa, Hadar, and Tema, Jetor, Naphish, and Kedema. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and by their castles, 12 princes according to their nations.
12 princes according to their nation. Eventually, these particular nations, these particular tribes would run what we would call the modern day Middle East, which is a new term just come up. They would run the old world according to this promise. See? From where? From Saudi Arabia. From Saudi Arabia. Okay? Y'all got that. Y'all see that. Now we've set the stage for the first son, who now feels slighted, now that Isaac have received the promise. Now let's go over to Esau, if you will.
Yes, sir. Genesis chapter 25, verse number 20.
Now we're going to stay in the same chapter, right? And we're going to Genesis 25, verse 20. Let's read it.
And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian of Padan Aram, the sister to Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived.
Rebekah conceived. Now Isaac has the promise now. He's about to now bring forth the heir to that covenant that our God gave or was shown to Abraham now. See this? I'm going to help you understand the whole geopolitical wars when it comes to racial tensions, including what's going on in the Middle East right now. Stick with us. And guess what? It doesn't matter where we go, right? It always comes back to our people. We're living in the earth a biblical narrative that only the Bible can give understanding to. You can't understand this by looking at this just through politics or thinking that it's about money. No, this is about prophecy, folks. Because they understand right now that every empire that was prophesied out of the Bible came into fruition. And it won't be too long before this empire falls to make way for the empire that stands in its ashes. Christ's empire. And when I say Christ's empire, for those who don't understand or don't know to believe in Christ right now, we're not talking about the Christ you were taught about in the Christian churches. They're not teaching the full truth on Christ. When we talk about Christ, we're also talking about a promise that embodies his people who will stand as the next empire. And this is why they're trying to consolidate the earth so that they can now, at the very end, war against the true covenant people. Right? Let's go.
22. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus?
Okay, if I'm blessed to have children or a child when I couldn't, why am I experiencing such pain? Read.
And she went to inquire of the Lord.
She went to talk to the Most High about it. Read.
And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
So eventually 2 races of people would extend from this woman. Now, this is a future prophecy. There's no such thing as children coming out real time and being 2 separate bloodlines of people. No, it didn't happen that way. Eventually, one of these children would link in with the Canaanites and bring forth an entirely different nation outside of a covenant people. Right? So here it is. Another problem. 2 people, 1 promise. So obviously the child who don't get his way on this round is going to feel slighted as Ishmael was slighted or feel slighted. And eventually these 2 prophetic figures from the seed of Abraham would conspire together against their common enemy. And this common enemy would what? Would be between the crosshairs of these 2 families until a savior would come to help these particular people. So let's see the child who feels slighted this time. And the Lord said unto her, two nations, two races, read,
are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people.
read.
And the elder shall serve the younger.
So similar to how Ishmael was the elder, but didn't receive the promise. Now, of course, the firstborn is supposed to receive everything of its father, from his father. So now the firstborn, Ishmael, feels slighted first. And now the Bible have flipped it now. The Most High flipped it and say, no, Rebecca, the elder shall serve the younger. Your pain is a result of these children fighting in the womb for one promise. They're fighting to see who comes out first. And that's the pain you're experiencing, my daughter. That's the pain you have experienced. One promise, two children. But the Most High flipped it and say, whoever come out first will eventually serve the younger child. See this? He flipped it. So let's see the child who would eventually join with Ishmael.
24.
24, let's read it.
And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over, like an hairy garment.
So there is no such thing as white people or black people. We're brown. Europeans are red. When you look at the spectrum, when you look at the colors, pink is what? Derives from a diluted dark color of red. Rome, their color was what? The eagle with blood red behind it, representing Edom. Okay? And the first came out red, read.
All over, like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau.
Esau. Okay? So now eventually Esau would sell his birthright to Jacob in the same chapter. And in the 27th chapter, while he was out hunting to find venison for his father to be blessed at his father before his father's death, Jacob comes in and what? Receive the blessing also, fulfilling what was given to Rebekah. See? Fulfilling what was given, what was shown prophetically to Rebekah. So now Esau is peeved now. He's upset. He's upset. So our father Isaac states, well, you know what, Esau? I can't give you anything. The covenant that was given to me through my father, I've already given it to Jacob. Right? So now Esau, the red man, is infuriated. Let's go to Genesis 27. Follow me here. We're breaking down the Arab and European conspiracy against the children of the covenant. Let's go to Genesis 27 real quick, Elder Lawyer. And let's go straight down to where Esau says, do you have at least one promise for me?
Yes, sir. Genesis chapter 27 and 38.
27 and 38, read.
And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. Esau lifted up his voice and wept.
Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Please, Father. Now, Esau has already been blessed with what? The gift of the hunter. The top hunter on earth, after he was able to, in a war, take out Nimrod. So he's already a hunter. So he already has gifts that his children would utilize to consolidate power in time. So he says, but I need that blessing. I need that covenant. And Isaac said, there's only one covenant. I can't give it to you, son. Esau returned to say, crying, Daddy, please give me something. So let's see what our father Isaac gave our brother Esau. Read.
39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above.
Read.
And by thy sword.
And by thy what?
And by thy sword shalt thou live.
You will live through warfare. There is no land for you. The only land you'll ever receive is through bloodshed. You'll have to kill, pillage, and colonize. See? For property. For your lot in the earth. Because the earth was already divided amongst Noah's 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. There's no land for another child popping out. Now, either you can coexist with your brother and serve him, or one day you'll have to live through the sword, because people are already living on the land. People are already on the lands you are seeking to conquer. People are already living there, Esau. And the promised land that was shown, where the Israelites would go to one day, that belongs to Jacob now. So you'll have to live by the sword. Any property, territory, or countries you get, it will be through what? You would have to send an army to take lands. Right? This is a blessing our God gave to Esau. And by thy sword shalt thou live, read.
And shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion.
It says, when thou shalt have the dominion. So it was prophesied that Esau would one day rule the earth, a dominion or empire. We know, according to the prophecies given to Daniel, the last 2 empires belonged to Esau, the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire. See? And they were able to get the Greek Empire through Zepho, who eventually Zepho, Esau's grandson, who went into Kittim and became king over what? Greece and Italy. Cyprus and Italy. Zepho became king and built a palace that also had what? It had a dark door where Satan would come in to interact with him for the new religion. And that's the origin of the Vatican. That's the origin of the Vatican. Another name for Zepho. Another name for Zepho, Esau's grandson, is Janus. The god Janus, the Greek god. That's another name for him. Okay? And that's where you get the Vatican from. It didn't come from Peter. That's a lie. After they destroyed Jerusalem, with their integration of paganism, Mithraism, into what you would call Christianity, they took Venus out of the temple and turned her into Mary. And they took Jupiter out of the temple and turned him into Peter. What we see today at the Vatican started thousands of years before there was any such thing as Christianity. Zepho set up a satanic temple. That's the Vatican today. Esau went into Europe and gained dominion, as was promised through our father Isaac. Read.
Verse number, the rest of verse 41.
And by thy sword, 40.
Yes, sir. Verse 40. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
Read the 41st verse.
41.
Read.
And Esau hated Jacob.
And Esau what?
And Esau hated Jacob.
And Esau hated Jacob.
Because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him.
Read.
And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob.
So after the death of my father, there will be a decree to slay my brother Jacob, folks. And I'm going to tell y'all, folks, there's a reason why black people cannot join ancient Freemasonry. They cannot join the Scottish or York rites of Freemasonry. They've created their own little Prince Hall to be at the behest of the top lodges. Because why? The oath of secrecy through Esau lives through those particular societies. What is that oath? Here is the oath. Let's read it again. The days of mourning of my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. But they must keep it quiet, fearing the power of Jacob. If Jacob understands the conspiracy, he will unite under his God. And guess what? Esau's time would end as far as power goes. Esau's power can only thrive because we're participating in it. And it's through our blessings that keep these empires going. So they have to do it behind closed doors. They must use secret societies and rites amongst themselves without ever letting Jacob know their true intent is the oath that was given to them through their father Esau. Follow me here. Genesis 36.
Genesis 36, verse 1.
Read.
Now these are the generations of Esau, who was Edom.
Read.
Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan.
So Esau became who? Edom. He went and dealt with the Canaanite women who had the bloodline of Nephilim to create another genetic being. Now, not all of Esau's family has this tainted bloodline, but the majority of them, a lot of them do. And we're going to point out those families today. Let's go down to the 9th verse, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Verse 9. These are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites.
The father of the Edomites.
In Mount Seir.
In Mount Seir. So, as you can see, according to Genesis 36, the prophecy given to Rebekah has unfolded. Now Esau have created a whole different nation or race by linking themselves with the Canaanites, but he also had sons with the daughters of Ishmael too. Let's get it.
Verse 3.
Come on, let's read the 3rd verse. Read it.
Yes, sir. And Bashemoth, Ishmael's daughter.
And Bashemoth, what?
Ishmael's daughter.
And Bashemoth, Ishmael's daughter.
Sister of Nebajoth.
Sister of Nebajoth. Now, are you seeing this? Sister of Nebajoth, the firstborn of who? The firstborn of Ishmael. Gave over his daughter in alliance through marriage. Ishmael has a problem with our people having the promise or covenant, and Esau has an issue too. So they made a blood oath by bringing family together who would be in that bloodline to come against their brother, the 12 tribes of Israel in the future. Nabojoth is the same family from whom the so-called prophet Muhammad comes through. Y'all see this? I hope y'all are seeing this. Right? So now, Ishmael have aligned themselves with a family agreement at Mount Seir with Esau. Esau himself have linked to the god of the Canaanites, who is Satan. Okay? According to the Egyptians' understanding of this story, these people, the Edomites, are from the Shashu. And this is where they have erected their god Baal or Yahweh, who have become the new god today of the Tetragrammaton, which is really the god of the Canaanites. The Most High name has never been Yahweh. That name predates Moses. Yahweh is from the god of the Shashu. When Esau went into Mount Seir, he met Yahweh. Yah, God. Hova, the god of mischiefness, darkness, the fallen. Hope y'all following me here. So even Christ stated that you can only serve two masters. You will love one or hate the other. So obviously Ishmael isn't going to serve the God of Abraham, his father. He feels slighted. Of course, Esau isn't going to follow or believe in the God of Abraham because he feels slighted. So they both turn to another master. They both turn to Satan. There's only one other God outside of our God, the ruler of this world. Okay? Stick with me now. I'm taking a few baby steps here. Now, later on in time, once our people fell in Jerusalem, right? Stick with me here. Once our people fell in Jerusalem, there was a situation, right? We fell, and eventually what would happen is, once we fell, well, there's two separate falls. One in 721 BC, when the Assyrian king came against Israel, and it split in two eventually after the sin of Solomon. The northern kingdom were taken out of the way, and a lot of them came into the New World, Australia, the New World, and the other areas outside of the Old World, which are the lost tribes of Israel, like your North American Indians and others. Okay? Even went into Asia and different parts of China, like your Cambodians, like your Philippines, like people in Taiwan, okay, who became what you would call the Negroes of Asia, okay? So here it is. 10 tribes leave, and only the southern kingdom exists. The southern kingdom exists of the majority of what we would call the Negroid Israelites, right? Like who? Like our people, Judah, whom Christ would come through. Benjamin, like the West Indians, right? Levi, the high priest. The priests, like you would see the Haitians, and a lot of this is still going on in Africa today, right? The southern kingdom stayed in place up until the time of the fall of Jerusalem. I'm going into history now, right? And I'm going to use their sources, right? I want y'all to see this. I want you all to see this now, right? And I'm going to go into their sources. This is from the Oxford Dictionary of the Jewish Religion. Right? This is from the Oxford Dictionary of the Jewish Religion. And Elder Lawyer, if you will, you know how to navigate that. Mm-hmm. If you can read that for me.
Let's keep it the size it was.
Yeah, that's fine.
Says here, forced conversion.
Forced conversion. Now, this is from Jewish sources. Read.
The forced conversion of the Idumeans, or Edomites, to Judaism by John Hyrcanus, 135 to 105 BC, is the only such recorded case of a forced conversions to Judaism. On the other hand, Jews have been victim of forced conversions throughout their history.
Now, this is their rabbis mentioning this. That they realize, I'm speaking of the Edomites, were forced into Judaism between 135 and 105 BCE. See? Before the birth of Christ. This is what we would call Jewry or Jewish in our modern times. This is the conversion, according to the Bible and according to their sources. Okay? That means they can practice Judaism, but they're still from the bloodline of who? Edomites, according to the Bible. Right? Now, that's from the Oxford Dictionary of the Jewish religion, where they admitted themselves that this was a forced conversion on them, that they could not participate or practice or even live in Israel under this agreement unless they chose to renounce the Canaanite religion and pick up the law of Moses as a compromise for them to live in the land. And this is history in front of you. Okay. Now there's white papers and articles on that. I'm just giving you the parts, the pieces, so you can piece together. We done went from the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and now we're here at 2nd century, almost to the time that Christ would come in the earth to what? To sustain the promise that was given to Isaac from Abraham. Now, at this time, the 12 tribes of Israel are on the scene. And it won't be too long. It would take a few empires, but eventually these same 12 tribes would receive what? Rulership according to that age-old prophecy. Ishmael and Esau would work to make sure that never happens. See, they would work to stave off the promise, understanding that the elder Esau was born to serve his younger brother. Are you following me here? Now, there's more. More sources. This is a white paper. The religion of Idumea and its early Judaism, right? And this is a white paper from Yigal Levin, okay? I did research on him, and he's also, he's also amongst and operating and learning under the rabbinical lines and studies of the Talmud also, okay? Yigal Levin, okay, he's Jewish, and he has some history on early Judaism. Now, I'm doing this so that we can frame and get in real time get some understanding of what's going on right now in the Middle East for you. Okay? But you have to understand history first, biblical history, in order to understand what's going on over there and how that includes us in the mix of it. Okay? Now, when you go to abstract, Elder Lawyer, I need you to read it if you can see it for several hundred years.
Yes, sir. For several hundred years, from the late Iron Age to the end of the 2nd century BCE, the southern neighbor of Judea was Idumea.
Now, Idumea are Edomites. See? Idumea are Edomites. Now, we know that according to the Jewish history that we've just shown, it was Edomites who converted into Judaism, and this is what we see today. Okay? It's not a bloodline belief more so than what? A conversion and compromise to follow the laws. But the bloodline covenant still stands with God's people. So you can believe in the Torah and all that, but you're still not a part of that covenant promise that was given to Abraham, if you understand, if you're following us, right? Now let's read here. Judea was what?
Says here, the southern neighbor of Judea was Idumea, populated by descendants of Edomites.
Descendants of Edomites, read.
Together with Kedarite,
together with Kedarites, which is the second son of Ishmael, Kedar. Read.
And other Arabs.
And other Arabs.
And a mix of additional ethnicities.
And a mix of extra ethnicities. Listen clearly.
This paper examines the known data on the identity, especially religious identity, of these Idumeans, using a wide range of written sources and archaeological data.
So this is archaeological data, which means what? This can be what? Proven. That this system that I'm going to show you for conspiracy existed. There's archaeological proof of this time period of when they were able to operate in union in an area called Idumea on the outside of where the tribe of Judah lived. You had Arabs and you had white people who conformed into Judaism, folks, in the Middle East. Almost 105 years before Christ was born, they were already operating under a new religion created outside of the bloodline promise. And this was before the Kedarites, the Quarterites, who were aligned with Esau. This was before there was any such religion as Islam. They were working religiously under what? Under our religion. This particular family out of the 12 princes of Ishmael. Read it through.
Says here, within the Bible, Edom is presented as Israel's twin and its harshest enemy.
And it tells us in the Bible that Edom is presented as Israel's twin and its harshest enemy. This is why in Christianity, they'll tell you Esau disappeared and don't exist. They don't want us to know that Esau has a political agenda against Israel at its highest realms of power. Now, I'm not talking about the everyday guy you see down the street smoking a Newport. We're not talking about those white people here, okay? Or Pall Mall or Marlboros, okay? We're talking about those who have made a secret oath to keep the promise to destroy Jacob in place under secret societies. Edom is presented as Israel's twin and harshest enemy. Read.
But there are hints that the Edomites worshiped the God of Israel.
They worshiped the God of Israel when they was almost forced to, right? During the time of Hyrcanus, during the Maccabean period, during the time of the Hasmonean dynasty. But see, they only did it through compromise. It's not as if they really wanted to follow Torah. This is why they also took up practices when it comes to the Babylonian Talmud and others. Babylonian practices from ancient Canaanites infused with their new religion through compromise Torah. So they'll on the surface deal with Torah, knowing it came from their father Abraham also. But in actuality, their political structure and their true intent of worship comes from Mount Seir. Right? The Canaanite religion. Edom is presented as Israel's twin and his harshest enemy, but there are hints that the Edomites worship the god Israel. Read.
While the origins of the Edomite deity Quas remain obscure, as does the process of their migration into southern Judah.
Their migration in the southern Judah. So, folks, they were already at this time, they had eyes on the promised land. Well before Christ was on the scene. Arabs and Edomites had a play to get that land, believing that they have some similitude or some relation to that promised land that wasn't promised to them through our God. But the whole time, their focus was to get that area. Arabs and Edomites. Why? Because they felt slighted. They were born before us, but yet our God gave the promise to us. So back then they were conspiring to get the land. Arabs and Edomites. Read.
While the origins of the Edomite deity Quas remain obscure, as does the process of their migration into southern Judah, the many inscriptions from the Persian period show that Quas became the most widely worshipped deity in the area, even if other gods, including Yahweh, were also recognized. The Hellenistic period brought heightened Greek and Phoenician influence, but also the stabilization of Idumea as an administrative/ethnic unit. Some of the practices of this period, such as male circumcision, show an affinity to the Judaism of the time. This paper also discusses the outcome of the Hasmonean conquest of Idumea and the incorporation of its inhabitants into the Jewish nation.
Exactly. So we're going to jump right to it. When you go into the god Kas that was worshipped during the time of this Idumean integration of Idumea, right? Kas was a main god worshipped in Mount Seir. Well, Kas is one of the gods that will worship that's connected to what? Hitler, Germany. When you do the research, I have the paperwork, right? I have the books. Germany and Edom by Rabbi Yahir Davidli, where Kas, they brought that same ideology to destroy our people because Germans are Edomites. Okay? So that same ideology of the god Kas was a deity worship under Hitler. So no wonder after the war, all the science of eugenics and destruction began to be aimed towards our people here in America and abroad in Africa and different parts of the Congo. The eugenics program and all that. But it's an age-old oath to get rid of Jacob. Eugenics is in that oath. And guess what? The god Kas was worshipped by Hitler himself. It's in the books. It's in the books, folks. So we're going to talk about it now. We're going to go down here to the Hasmonean dynasty. I can't read the whole paper. We already know who the Edomites are. Let's go down to but it tell you the Edomites are what? The Edomites are Semitic. You see it there, Elder Lloyd, where it says Semitic there?
Yep, go down. It says,
yeah, right here. It tell you right here, who are the Edomites? The Edomites' language is Northwest Semitic. So this is where you get the anti-Semitism from, when all Edomites are Semitic. It doesn't matter what your race is or what religion you follow. All Europeans are Semitic. They're not Japhetic. They took Japhetic lands under Zepho and later through who? Alexander the Greek and his generals. They conquered by the sword as our Bible stated they would. The prophecy of their father Isaac. So white people are Semitic too. So if you get in an argument with a regular white guy down the street and do something wrong to him, regardless of his religion, that would be what? That would be considered anti-Semitic. If you did something against us unjustly, we're Israelites from the seed of Shem through Jacob, through our father Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and others. If you did something against us, like when you conquered us and began to destroy us, that would be an anti-Semitic act because we are from the tribes of Israel, which is Semitic. Right? So let's go down here. Idumea. Let's talk about this real quick, Elder Lawyer. Idumea, right? Now, I can't read the whole paper, so let me just get straight to the Hasmonean dynasty. When was the province of Idumea created? Read it.
It is now widely acknowledged that there was, in fact, no province of Idumea at all during the Persian period.
Read.
Such a province is not mentioned in any of our sources for the period, literary or epigraphic. We know of no stamps or coins issued by such a province at a time when they were being issued by Samaria, Judah, Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, and the various Phoenician cities.
Read.
As Ephal and Navah pointed out in their study of the ostraca, said, to have been found at the Kerbet El Kom, situated near the Marashah Hebron road and identified as the biblical Mekkedah. Our ostraka do not contain any administrative or professional titles and indicate nothing about the state or regional administration.
Read.
As most scholars now recognize, during the Persian period, the southern Judean hills, the southern Shepherd or Shephedah, and the Negev, rather than being ruled by Edomites or Idumeans, were actually controlled by an Arab-speaking group known as the Kedarites.
As the Kedarites. Ishmael's what?
It says here, the eponym of this group, spelled Kedar, in most English translations appear in the Bible as Ishmael's second son.
Ishmael's second son. I showed you all that. Read.
After Nebaioth, the Kedarites are widely attested in the Bible and in Assyrian inscriptions from the late 8th century onward.
8th century onward. Read.
It would seem that by the mid-5th century, at the latest, these Kedarites, or Arabs, Kedarite Arabs, had established their control over the Negev and Sinai, as well as the old land of Edom.
The old land of Edom, come on.
Within the Bible, Nehemiah's southern neighbor and enemy is Geshem the Arab. The name and that of, son of Geshem, designated king of Kedar.
King Kedar. Read.
Have been found on inscriptions from Tel El Mashkuta in the eastern Nile Delta and at Dedan in Arabia.
And at Dedan in Arabia. So we know around the 5th century is when the conspiracy of the province of Idumea came into play. And we're going to show you what was that particular conspiracy in a moment. Right? So, as you can see, let me go down here. I don't want to go into that guide. This is an extensive white paper. Kos and the other gods of Persia, period, Idumea. 1 second, let me go here. Hellenistic practices of Idumea. Right? Hold on. It's extensive, but I just wanted to show you all this. Right here. Right? Esau and Edom in late Second Temple in the rabbinic Judaism, right? Let's read it, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Despite the assimilation of Idumea and its inhabitants into Judea towards the end of the 2nd century BC, and despite the huge influence that Herod and his descendants had on Judea.
Now let's deal with Herod real quick, folks. Because Herod, follow me here, Herod was known as a man who eventually would seek to kill the covenant child Christ. Right? Finish reading, Elder Lawyer.
It says here, the huge influence that Herod and his descendants had on Judea, Jerusalem, and the temple throughout the remaining 170 years of their existence and beyond, late Second Temple and rabbinic Judaism essentially obfuscated any memory of the Idumeans.
Read.
This can easily be seen in most of the late Second Temple period pseudepigrapha. Besides the story of a conflict between Esau and Jacob in Hebron area in Jubilees, which may reflect a pre-John Hyrcanus reality, the later pseudepigrapha, such as the testaments of the 12 tribes.
I read it. Read.
4th Esdras, 1st Enoch.
2nd Esdras, when you look at it. 1st Enoch. Read.
And others mostly built upon the biblical depiction of the enmity between Edom and Israel.
So there's an enmity between Edom and Israel. Now let me show you one other thing here. One second here. And we're going to get to our modern times, our current times in a few moments. Just bear with us. Right? One second. Right here. Right here. Just read this part. For several hundred years.
Yes, sir. For several hundred years, there existed south of Judea an ethnic and administrative entity which we call Idumea.
That we call Idumea, read.
While the origins of this entity and the process by which it came to be are debated and will be discussed below, its end is well known. Idumea was conquered by the Hasmonean ruler John Hyrcanus.
John Hyrcanus, listen.
The first, near the end of the 2nd century BCE.
Now, John Hyrcanus was a Levite. These are Israelites here. Read.
And at least according to Josephus, some Idumeans seem to have been included into the Jewish nation / religion.
Hold up. They were inducted into what?
Inducted into the Jewish nation / religion.
They were inducted into the Jewish nation religion. And at this point, they were called Jews according to, folks, the complete works of the Josephus. The tribes don't denote them. The religion denotes them as Jews according to this conversion. Antiquity of the Jews, here's the source, 13:257. When now there's a new religion on the earth outside of what was given the 12 tribes of Israel. Right? So there's a clear distinction between the process of what Judaism is and what religion that was given to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the 12 tribes of Israel. There's a clear distinction between the two. Okay? And we're here to clear it up. We're talking about a bloodline promise, not what religion you fall under or converted to. Are you following us? Now, since we're there, going along now, right? Let's get it here. Let's now read the conspiracy. Let's read the conspiracy, Psalms 83. So we know that there was Arabs and Edomites who came together to conspire in secret against our people. David understood this, right? Let's go to Psalms 83.
All right, Psalms 83, verse 1.
And I'm going to tell y'all, brothers and sisters, if y'all think this is something, get in that academy. I'm telling you. Now let's do it. Psalms 83. Let's read.
Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
Read.
They have taken
And
craft.
it says, they that hate you, God, has lifted up the head. Now, why did they hate our God? Speaking of Ishmael and Esau in particular. Because our God could only give one promise to one son. This is why they hate our God and turn to Satan, to a new religion. And I'm going to tell when people see these religions, y'all only look at the good in these religions. You don't even realize Satan, who introduced evil into the earth, had a poison with what? Good and evil within it. So you only look at the good of these religions, but not realizing when Satan administers a poison, there's good, but with side effects. So you look at these religions and believe, okay, because there's similar tenets that you can relate to biblical principles, you'll think, okay, that's a good religion too. Well, there's good in all religion. There's good in all beliefs. But that's the distinction between what? The core beliefs in the Bible opposed to Gentile religion. See? Because you can have good and all that in there, but you can also have in their religion, under the Canaanite religion, where a certain time of year, you must bring your child to be burned to the god Moloch. Okay, that's not too good. So these people, at the helm of these religions, not the people who just follow them, because some people are like sheep, okay? People just follow the status quo. So this is no indictment on anyone who's following some religion somewhere, because you don't even know the origin of your religions. You're just trying to practice what you believe is the right path based on what was handed down from your parents and all that. So there's no indictment on someone who's trying to seek God through any religion. We're just setting the record straight. At the pinnacle of these religions are Satanists. Okay? And they hate our God because they know our God has a chosen. And that chosen in prophecy was also, according to prophecy, the seed of the chosen were born to judge them for their evil deeds. This is why they attack us. They don't attack us because we're doing something presently against them. They attack us because of the promise. What they know our children will become. Our children will one day judge their children. So they're attacking us to stave off that prophecy. Okay? For lo, thine enemies make atonement. Read.
And they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
Read.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
So they're sneaky, crafty. So even David mentioned this conspiracy in Idumea, that they would take crafty counsel against our people. So they're not going to do it out front and let us know they're warring against us. They're going to do it slick. Oh yeah, civil rights, all people equally. We all victims. And don't worry about it. We're going to make sure we do what's right for black or brown people. And you think you're included in that. Only for them to bring over the same people who have destroyed you to continue destroying you. See, that's crafty counsel. They're not going to tell you directly that they're actually just exterminating you and your family. What they're going to tell you is, listen, we're going to make sure there's rights for black and brown people. See? We're going to make sure I'm going to show you what we're going to make sure. We're going to make sure it pop for you black and brown people. Like right here.
And today, we take another important step forward in our fight against hate. For years, Muslims in America and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks. As a result of the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, we have seen an uptick in anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Semitic, and Islamophobic incidents across America, including the brutal attack of a Palestinian-American woman who was Muslim and the killing of her 6-year-old son. A senseless act of violence that the Department of Justice is investigating as a hate crime. For so many people in our nation, the past few days and weeks have brought about all too familiar fears. Fears that they will be targeted, profiled, or attacked simply because of who they are, how they worship, or how they look. And so today, I am proud to announce the Biden-Harris administration will develop our nation's first national strategy to counter Islamophobia. This strategy will be a comprehensive and detailed plan to protect Muslims and those perceived to be Muslim from hate, bigotry, and violence, and to address the concern that some government policies may discriminate against Muslims. For example, the so-called Muslim ban, which President Biden revoked on our first day in office.
Are you kidding me? We can't get an anti-hate bill to save our life here. See? Folks, y'all don't see the game? Y'all don't see the plan yet? They're getting in front of these people, making laws knowing that eventually our people are going to wake up and realize we've been double-crossed by all these black and brown people under the same conspiracy the Bible warned us about, warned us of. See? So they putting these laws in place knowing that eventually it's going to be mayhem in these inner cities when our people realize that we've been double-crossed, that we're voting in those who are actually, folks, who are actually paid like mercenaries to destroy us inwardly. Crafty counsel. Now, make sure you do right on your black and brown rainbow coalition now. Let's read crafty counsel. Come on.
Yes, sir. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones.
Read.
They have said.
Now here's the conspiracy. They have said what?
Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation.
Let us cut them off from being a nation. Folks, if you haven't already, please hit that like button for me real quick. If you haven't already. 10 people, 15 people, matter of fact, 20 people, just hit it real quick, all right? Let's get 20 more. That's good. They have said what?
Come.
Thank you for that too. Read.
Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation.
Let us cut them off from being a race of people. If they divide you, they can conquer you. When East Indians come over, guess what? Even if they just round about and they find some East Indian strangers in the same area, they'll automatically cleave to one another under the same ideologies they've learned in their homeland with their caste systems. See, just because they come to another country doesn't mean their ideas of the caste system changes. Black and brown people, see? Same thing with Arabs, same thing with Asians. Because they are one nation and they're unified. They're unified in their beliefs of their nation before anyone else. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. It's only our people that's divided gender lines, sex lines, and everything else, not realizing that we are subjects of this same conspiracy David is speaking of here. Let us cut them off from being a nation. That means a race, knowing that we are the children of Israel. Let's make sure we keep that conspiracy going from generation to generation. Read.
That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
So we're going to set up mosques and make them believe that we're the priests, that we're the imams. Okay, and we'll bribe their people to teach this con game to their own people as if it's a way of life when really it's a slave religion on either side. In either Christianity or Islam, they'll never tell us that we are in fact from the lost tribes of Israel, proving that they've accomplished the conspiracy. So this is not a religion thing, folks. This is what? This is a bloodline thing. This is the bloodline thing. If we come on code as Israel, then we'll understand who everyone else is in the earth. Everyone else are here. And we'll deal with them accordingly. But if we don't know what nation we come from, we don't know how to get on code with one another according to a civil law. This is why God gave Moses the law before we got the land. We got the law so we'll understand how to interact with one another and on how to interact with our enemies. But if they cut you off from being a nation, you won't even know you're under attack. See? You won't even know that they're conspiring against you because you don't even know who the Bible stated that they would be conspiring, who they would be conspiring against. And that's why I'm connecting the dots for you all today, folks. Their whole thing with their religions is to target us and to make sure we never realize that we're the lost tribes of Israel. Because if they attach us from our name, it's a simpler process. By doing so, they detach us from our God. And when you're not under the hedge of your God, they can utterly decimate a people. And this is what we're witnessing in our communities right now. No name, no God. When they're coming over, Arabs are coming over with their God. East Indians are coming over with their God. Asians are coming over with their gods, united as a nation, and we're decimated. No direction. So the key thing is, for the sake of self-preservation, is to get on code under one law, the law of Israel. Let us cut them off from being a race, a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. And this is why they don't mind us running around with some African ideology and African pride. They don't mind that. A matter of fact, the same people over there fighting, they'll fund Pan-Africanism and all of that. Because the Pan-Africanism we see today isn't the Pan-Africanism that Marcus Garvey was dealing with, folks. Marcus Garvey's whole idea came from understanding that we're the tribes of Israel. It was Bible rooted, Bible based. And he wanted to unite Africa under our promise. It wasn't some black thing. When you look at Marcus Garvey's work, it all came from the Bible. He was a staunch believer in the Bible. This is why I understand these people running around talking about, yeah, I'm the prince of Pan-Africanism, and he don't know what he believed. He believed, in witchcraft, hoodoo, Yoruba, and all this other crap, totally crapping on Marcus Garvey's legacy by denouncing the book that inspired Marcus Garvey. It was the Bible. Even the revolts that led to them setting us free was Bible-based. Nat Turner and all that, when they realized we the children of Israel, guess what? No longer could they keep you under some slave mentality, because why? If you are an African or a Hamite, there is no promise to you according to what? The Bible. There's no promise. If they can trick you into believing that you're from the cursed seed of Ham and be a servant of servants, you'll have no disagreement with serving these other nations and believing you were born to do so. See? This is why they push this African stuff on us. And the Africans from West Africa and all that, they're the children of Israel, folks. But they don't mind us with this Africa stuff because they know there's no promise attached to it. Africa is part of the wilderness we ran into after getting slaughtered by the Romans. It's an extension of our homeland. You notice, and this is why the same people, folks, I'm trying to, just be politically correct here. That's why the same people who are beholden to the name, they'll come up with the science to tell you, we found some black bones for you, some old bones in Africa. Right? Crafty consul. So now you take pride in, they got some old bones. Science don't lie. We're the original man. Okay, great. You're the original man. Okay, and who are they again? Who did this original man belong to? Crickets. They're moving you off the beaten path. The same people who are claiming Jerusalem will give you the science to stay in darkness. And then pull it right back from under you. How did they pull it back from under you? Those same scientists came 8 years later and said, well, I'm sorry. It so happened that we found older bones than your black bones in Europe. Sorry. White man is the original man, but you don't see it here. No pro-blacks going into that science. That came after this we found some bone garbage. They probably dust off some old bones from anywhere and sprinkle a little dirt on it and say, see, stay in Africa. Don't even think about Jerusalem. Right? What's the crafty counsel of the lawyer?
Verse 5. For they have consulted together with one consent.
They're with one consent.
They are confederate against thee.
And the Bible tell you that they will align themselves at every turn against the lost tribes of Israel. That's their true conspiracy, folks. Then it points it out. Who?
The tabernacles of Edom.
Edom is number one. Esau is behind this conspiracy along with who?
And the Ishmaelites.
And there go our brothers again, Arabs. Let's go down. Let's go down here to the 12th verse.
Who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession.
Because if we can take their nation from them and reprogram their children, they'll become perpetual slaves to our children. Take their name away and give them our false religions. Now, what came? Hold on. What came out of the conversion when Idumeans converted into Judaism during the 2nd century? You know who came out of them? This who came out of them. Herod the Greek. They call him great. I don't think nothing is great about him. He would be considered Jewish today. He would be considered Jewish. Now, this was before Christ. Herod came out of who? He came out of the line of Antipater. Let's read about him real quick, if you will. Herod, right? Let's read here, Elder Lawyer. Let's blow it up here. Hold on, hold on. There you go. Let's get straight to it. Hold on. Hold on. Herod, right? Politics, laws, and government, right? Let's go straight down, right? Hold on. Now let's read it here. Herod. Herod by name. Let's read it.
Herod by name, Herod the Great, or Herodes Magnus, Roman appointed king of Judea, 37 to 4 BCE.
So he was actually appointed king of Judea. I mean, a ruler over Judea. Read it again.
Says Herod, Roman appointed king of Judea.
An Edomite appointment, king of Judea. He's an Edomite now. Read.
Who built many fortresses, aqueducts, theaters, and other public buildings, and generally raised the prosperity of his land, but who was the center of political and family intrigues in his later years.
Now, he was the guy responsible for what? The decree to murder Christ, to kill the baby at birth, an Edomite. Let's go into his family's early life, Elder Lawyer. Herod. Who is Herod? Read.
Herod was born in southern Palestine.
Southern Palestine.
His father, Antipater.
Read.
Was an Edomite.
Was a what?
Was an Edomite.
Was a what?
Was an Edomite.
Was a who?
Was an Edomite.
Was an Edomite. So it was Edomites, the Romans, who put up another Edomite to become the political power over Jerusalem by the time Christ was born. Huh? A what?
An Edomite, a Semitic people.
A Semitic people.
Identified by some scholars as Arab, who converted to Judaism.
Who what?
Who converted to Judaism.
He did who?
Who converted to Judaism.
Who converted to Judaism. Now we know he was no Arab. He was in league with the Arabs in the land of Idumea. So we're not going to mix Esau and Ishmael up. We don't do that. Okay? His father was Antipater, was an Edomite, a Semitic people, identified by some scholars as Arab, you can throw that out, who converted to who?
To Judaism.
To Judaism. To Judaism. And where?
In the 2nd century BCE.
In the 2nd century. So this guy right here, let me get him, was an Edomite convert from Anatipa, who eventually, about 100 years later after the conversion, was made king over Judea, an Edomite in place at the time of the covenant child Christ, who so happened to be from our people, Judah. Oh yeah, it gets good. So let's check out and see if this particular king was actually waiting for the promised child or the covenant for his people. You would have believed that he would readily accept this child of prophecy that was prophesied out of the Old Testament, who would be the anointed Christ, right? Here's an Edomite governor over our people. There go your politics. But he was put there for another reason. Why did they want this man in place during the time of Christ? Let's see. Elder Lawyer, let's go to Matthew, the 2nd chapter. Matthew 2.
St. Matthew chapter 2, verse 1.
Let me get it here. Matthew 2, verse 1. We're talking about this character here, who's an Edomite, who's now in Judea as a king, who was part of the conversion during the time of Hyrcanus. 100 years later, his parents, his family, who was Edomites, was converted into Judaism. And now the Bible highlights what? The height of his power. Why was Herod put in place by the Romans? Could it have been prophetic? Was he strategically placed there to kill the child who was born to bring forth the promise again to his people? Interesting. Let's read it.
Yes, sir. Matthew 2 and 1. Now when Yeshua was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born king of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him.
So the sign of Christ wasn't before he was born. The sign of Christ was after he was born. The star in the east. And what happens when Herod hear that the prophetic child who was born to take down Esau, to take down, don't forget, it was shown to Rebekah that the elder shall serve the younger. See, Esau knew that this child would be one day the child who would bring empire, strength, and power back to the 12 tribes of Israel. Right? So let's see if is he seeking to welcome the child, welcome the parents into his graces. Read.
Verse 3. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled.
He was what?
He was troubled.
You know why he was troubled? Because he understood the prophecy, folks. He wasn't for our people. He was in a position to kill the child who would save our people. This troubled him. Read.
And all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together.
This is politics, folks. Read.
He demanded of them where Christ should be born.
Where is the child? Come on.
And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah.
In the land of Judah. We're from the tribes of Judah, folks. We're from the tribe of Judah, the Negroes in America. Read.
And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah.
Read.
For out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel.
This what he was afraid of. He's already governor. And now our people now, folks, our people can look forward to our own people governing us. Okay? It was no secret that at this time that Herod was from the Edomites. That wasn't no mystery during this time. Everyone knew the line of Anatipater and all that were Edomites who converted into Judaism. So now this guy feels what? He feels threatened by the bloodline covenant and is not seeking to welcome this child of promise, knowing that eventually this king would replace him and any other king on earth. So what did he do? Read.
Verse 7. Then Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared.
Read.
And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, Go and search diligently for the young child. And when you have found him, bring me word again that I may come and worship him also.
So that I may come and worship him. Yeah, bring him. Crafty counsel. You know, I want to pay my respects to this bloodline king also. Right? Read.
When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was.
Read.
When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy.
And this has nothing to do with Christmas, folks. Christ was not born during that time. Okay, that's Saturnalia. Because I know you're going to be hearing this Yuletide songs and music in a couple of days. No. Christ was not born in December. Another lie. Read.
Verse number 10. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh.
Go ahead.
And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way.
Look at that, folks. They were warned by the Most High in a dream. Don't y'all go back to this devil. You better not take this child to be honored. And guess what? He had the honor of a king. Everything they brought forth to this child is the same presentation back in holy times, back in ancient times, that you would do for a king or a prince that was born into the earth. Okay? And what happens?
12.
Read.
13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt.
Go to Egypt. Read.
And be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him.
So Herod sought to kill the baby, folks. They wanted to child sacrifice our king that was prophesied to free us. So you think they're looking forward to Christ returning, folks? No way. So here's an Edomite in our place. Here it is, Edomite in our position over Judea, waiting to kill this baby, knowing it was time for the prophecy. You know, they probably spoke to their high seers and their advisors and all that, their witches and warlocks, and say, yeah, that child that Nimrod was talking about years ago has come into the earth to judge our people. So now this devil is looking to kill our future. Sounds familiar? To kill our future. So what the Herod does in turn when he realized that the baby isn't coming? 16.
Yes, sir, verse 16. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and in all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men.
So what did this devil do? He went and slayed every child, killed every child 2 years or younger, from the time he sent the wise men to find Christ. And guess what? This is also documented in the annals of Rome. Huh? And the Most High had him suffer a serious, excruciating, torturous death for this. When you look at the research on what happened to this guy. When you look at the research, the Most High had him go out. You know, I mean, he had boils over him, all types of stuff. He went out hard. Another political decree to kill our future. Y'all see this? And then later, right? Now the Edomites are in place, right? And Christ warned us, right? Let's go to Matthew 10 real quick. And then go to Luke 19. And this I'm going to tell you, this is what they were afraid of. Because when Christ came on the scene, he did what? Let's start at the first verse.
Matthew 10:1. And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease.
Because they were actually doing germ warfare on our people back then, folks. And their satanic labs and all that. Doing all types of tests. The Romans were good for this, folks. So the Most High began to give us an understanding of how to heal our people. Satan used sickness as a form of what? As a form of warfare to keep our people, to keep the earth under control. And Christ gave us the power to heal. Now let's go down to the 5th verse, when he sent the disciples out.
Verse 5. These 12 Yeshua sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles.
Read.
And into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not.
Read.
But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
This is why the devil wanted to kill Christ. Christ was coming with a mission that would put our people back on code. He said, yeah, we can bring in the Gentiles later. After Christ's death, he said, go and teach them. But it was about getting our people together first, because why? The enemies were seeking to destroy Jerusalem, to destroy our people. And the mission had to begin that would one day bring Israel back under the fold, under the guidance of God's covenant. See how these devils operate politically and otherwise? So this is why they wanted to kill the child, because it was what? He said, go tell our people, the Savior has come. I'm going to give you the completion of what Moses instilled with the law. I'm going to complete this. And with this knowledge, it doesn't matter where you are. You will one day find me. You will one day find your God and get back on code and understand this conspiracy. But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel and tell them what?
And as ye go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand.
Tell them that what? Tell them that their kingdom comes next. We're in the last days of the Roman Empire, folks. So guess what, folks? What happens? I'm going to show you what happens. After Christ's death, and the ministry has now began to gain some level of steam behind it, where even the Gentiles are leaving their pagan temples to follow this way. Right? What happens in 64 AD? Well, this is what happens. Right? Another devil pops up by the name of Nero. Nero. Open up, yeah. Nero. The popular myth that Nero fiddled with Rome burned is not true. Even in the 1st century, Rome was filled with poorly constructed slums that easily caught fire. That's their, folks, that's their what? That's their spin story. But we all know the history. The history was what? A fire started in an enormous Circus Maximus Stadium, Rome, now the capital of Italy. When the fire was finally extinguished 6 days later, 10 of Rome's 14 districts had been burned. Right? But this is what, and it's in that literature that I got, that white paper on Judaism, folks. I just wanted to use this as a picture. Nero. This devil right here. They call it a myth, but there's historical information out there that would claim he was trying to get the heat off of him politically with some of his sexual improprieties and misdirect people into another political scenario in which what? He would be absolved from some of his evil. So what better way to kill two cats or kill two birds with one stone? Get the heat off of him, and then at the same time put what? Put a target on their number one enemies. The Israelites who have converted into Christianity, who's now destabilizing Rome politically with this new religion, which they thought was a religion that was a threat to the Roman cults. The Roman cult of Mithraism and others. So what did he do? Well, they said that he paid mercenaries to burn markets and all that, to blame it on Israelites who believed in Christ. And through that, a decree was made to destroy our last what? Stronghold in Jerusalem. This is when our people lost Jerusalem. Elder Lawyer? Did not Christ say that this would happen? It was a prophecy. Let's go to the book of Luke now. One conspiracy after the next to destroy the children of Israel. Right? And I need you to go into Babylon and Timbuktu where it says 1 million Jews. Right? You have that, right? Okay, great. Let's go to the book of Luke.
Yes, sir. St. Luke chapter 21.
Yep.
And
21.
verse 20.
Luke 21, verse 20. Let's read it.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
When you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies. He used this event as a pretext to draft law that would allow Romans to now occupy our homeland. 64 AD this happened. Right? 64 AD, some about 30 years after Christ's death, they're now coming to destroy us. And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Read.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
Flee to the mountains. This is how we got into Africa in mass numbers. Fleeing what? The Roman armies destroying our homeland. Under what? Vespasian and Titus, which was the next administration after Nero. After Nero. So first you have Nero, who make the political pretext to demonize Israelites in order to begin what? Roman military occupation. And after the demonization, the next administration comes in. Vespasian and his son Titus now can now use that army to actually exterminate our people off of the land, like it was warned by Daniel in the Old Testament and Christ during Christ's time, with some of his last words given to the disciples. He said they were going to do this. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, read.
Then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Read.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
This is an Edomite attack against the homeland of Israel. The same land we see them fighting over today. This happened to us, and Christ prophesied it would happen. We fled into the mountains, read.
And let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto.
Read.
For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
That all things that are written may be fulfilled. Now, Elder Lawyer, let's go into Babylon and Timbuktu and see what happened right after the Romans sacked Jerusalem, 70 AD. Now, don't forget, it was the politics that led to them demonizing us first. And then they put the armies in place for the next administration to come through to now use that army to cut off all exit routes and destroy our people in Jerusalem. But those who were in Christ knew the prophecy and began to work their way out of that area before the fall of Jerusalem. See? Let's read it. What page?
Page 84. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem.
Hold up the book so they can see it. From Babylon to Timbuktu, Rudolph Art Windsor, read.
In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state.
Come on.
With great slaughter.
Come on.
During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa.
1 million black, what they would call black Israelites, ran into Africa. See? After this massacre on our homeland. Read.
Jews, it says here, Jews fled into Africa fleeing Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
The slave market was filled with Israelites, millions of us. See? Who died by the hands of Edomites, the Romans. And those who survived, our people were thrown into the Marv. We were thrown into the Colosseums for sport. We became the gladiators of Rome. Eventually, through time, as Rome began to what? Began to lose power. And this is what happens when you begin to destroy our people. Our God will begin to what? He will begin to minimize your power on earth so that we would have a way to escape and sustain the promise that was given to our father Abraham. So what happens? You allow us in your armies. Vespasian, down the line, Septimius Severus and Pescennius Niger led revolts. That's right. The generals began to lead revolts against the Roman Empire, and it began to splinter Europe, splinter Rome. And out of this came the Dark Ages, where our people began to rule different parts of Europe, like King James, a so-called black man. Right? Hold on. Now, the slave markets were full of black Jew slaves. You never hear this history in our schools. But that's Esau coming against us. Well, what about the Arabs? Well, Muhammad, who came from the sons of Nabajoth through the Quraysh tribe, we taught Muhammad the Abrahamic way. He interrogated us concerning our religion, only to compile the research we gave him into a new religion called Islam. And once we refused to recognize his religion as a what? As a comparable religion on the level of what we believed, he turned on our people. Ishmael. Let's read it out of there, Elder Lawyer. Let's read it. Let's go straight to when Muhammad rounded up our people at Medina. We don't just go straight to it.
Yes, sir. Page 50.
Page 50. Let's read it.
In the year 627, the Battle of Fos occurred. The Jewish tribes were defeated by the armies of Muhammad. 700 Jews were gathered in the marketplace and offered the alternative, the Quran or the sword.
Listen, it was our people, folks, from the diaspora. This is why Africa and all that, a large number of them were actually converted during the time of the so-called Moor period. These Moors, we didn't become Moors voluntarily. The Muslim Moors. Okay? It was the Arabs near the time of the Crusades who began to slaughter our people under a decree connected to the Roman Catholic Church. Ishmael and Muhammad, Ishmael and Esau working in tandem to conspire and destroy our people now through an Arab ideology called Islam. Let's read it. Come on.
But the devout Jews were accustomed to martyrdom. They did not hesitate in their choice. Muhammad carried out his bestial threat, executed the Jews.
He executed the Jews.
And the women were sold.
And the women were sold. This was at Medina, folks. They took 700 of our people in front of the public square and say, you either what? You choose Islam and convert, or the sword. Which one? These are the sons of Ishmael who were doing this to us. Well before there was any such thing as a transatlantic slave trade. I didn't have an opportunity to show this book in the academy, but I'm going to show a few pages out of it today. And I think everyone needs to get this book at a time where even the Biden administration and others are seeking to pass laws talking about protect from Islamophobia. When where was our protection? When Muhammad and the Arabs did this to us. Islam, black slaves, Elder Lawyer. Let's get the book real quick. I'm going to end it here. Islam, black slaves. Right? Let's go here to that page here. Hold on, let me make sure I have it here. Yep. In the beginning. Now the first couple of pages. Okay. Yep, you'll see it marked. Yep, right there. Now this is the other Black Diaspora, Ronald Siegel, author of The Black Diaspora, Islam's Black Slaves, right? Let's read it real quick. You notice they're making crime bills to hate crime bills for Asians, for Arabs, but there's never been a hate crime drafted to protect, so that we can protect ourselves from those who are hurting, harming us. Right? Read.
The history of Islam is not only about glories, however. It involves an investment in slavery. That had millions of black victims.
That had many of black victims. We know who are Israelites. Read.
There is a conscious and articulate black diaspora in the West that confronts the historical record of slavery and racism there.
Read.
That Islam has no comparably conscious.
Let me get it. Next one. Has comparably conscious, read.
No conscious and articulate black diaspora to confront it with the reminders of slavery, does not make the record any more immune to examination and judgment.
Read.
Islam owes such an examination and judgment not only to itself, but also to its victims. They have the right, most precious of all, for the voiceless to be heard.
For the voiceless to be heard, because they play hot potato, folks. When we begin to understand Esau's attacking us, they'll just move out of the way and let Ishmael attack us. When they push the false new religion of Christianity that we realized had nothing to do with our Bible, instead of telling us that we were the children of Israel, they allowed us to go over to another slave religion, Islam, which moves us further from the records to how we've gotten here, the Bible. Right? Now, Elder Lawyer, let's go to the next one here, page 37, if you will.
Yes, sir.
Right here, which says masters.
Yes, sir. It's page 36.
36, let's do it.
It says, masters were also required to treat their female slaves benevolently.
So Arab masters were also required to treat their female slaves benevolently. Like they'll come into our neighborhoods, right? And we all know what's be happening behind closed doors. A lot of people haven't been saying this, but we know what happened in those shops, you know, targeting and looking at our sisters who they know that have no guidance or nothing. Some of their arrangements they be making in our neighborhoods with our sisters who pop up pregnant from nowhere. Read.
Masters were also required to treat their female slaves benevolently, though with qualifications as well as peculiar advantages. The Quran stipulated that female slaves might lawfully be enjoyed by their masters.
So the Quran agrees and stipulated that female slaves, according to their law, it's morally good for them to what? That female slaves might lawfully be enjoyed by their masters. You know, religiously, that's a good thing according to the Quran, right? That it's not unlawful for them to enjoy themselves with those sisters who are under their power. Who knew that was allowed according to the Quran? Read.
But such lawful enjoyment passed to their husbands when the female slaves were married, and masters had a moral duty to marry off their virtuous slaves, male or female.
Read.
Indeed, a twofold reward in heaven was due to the master who educated his female slave, then freed and married her.
Read.
Furthermore, in contrast to laws and practices in the system of slavery centuries later in the Americas, it was forbidden in Islam to separate a slave mother and her young child up to the age of 7 or so, by allowing them to become the property of different masters.
Go ahead.
A relevant hadith declared, whoever separates a mother from her child, God will separate him from his dear ones on the day of resurrection.
Come on.
Muslim jurists tended to construe the injunctions or guidance expressed in the Quran and the Sunnah in a generally humanitarian way, informed by the maxim al-asl huwa al-lahuriya, or the basic principle is liberty. Thus, the assumption in all dubious cases, such as fondlings of unknown origin, was in favor of freedom. And Muslim law allowed only 2 passages to the status of slavery: birth to a slave mother and capture in warfare.
And capture in warfare. Read.
Even these were qualified. The children born to a female.
Hold on. The children, that's our people, the children of Israel, hold on, who are born to a female, hold on. Read. Who is born to a female slave.
And her master was automatically free, since otherwise the child would be its own father's slave. The enslavement of captives in warfare excluded Muslim ones, on the basis that Muslims would not war against each other, and the enslavement of unbelievers was both a compensation for Muslim deaths.
See, it was incentivized to actually enslave those who didn't believe in Islam. What type of religion is this? Read.
It says, both a compensation for Muslim deaths in lawful war and a way of promoting conversion to the faith. Yet, given the encouragement to emancipation indeed, its practice, and the effective limits to Islamic conquest of infidel peoples.
So it was justified to do whatever they would like to other people who weren't a part of the Muslim faith. So this is how they justified handling and destroying our people without conscience. Read.
The supply of slaves would have fallen even ever further behind the demand if the law had not come increasingly to be flouted. Muslims enslaved other Muslims, sometimes on doctrinal pretexts.
Because they didn't agree on certain things. Madness. Read.
Some Muslim movements considered those who were not adherents to be infidels, righteously to be attacked, captured, and enslaved. Rebellion provided another pretext. For instance, thousands of women belonging to a Berber tribe that had revolted were publicly sold at Cairo in 1077.
Was publicly sold at Cairo in 1077, folks. This was before what we talk about when it comes to the transatlantic slave trade. They were doing this over there before we were brought into slave ships, as is written of in Deuteronomy 28 and 68. Read.
More often across the frontier from Muslim states, people of various faiths, including Islam, were subjected to war or raids, and captives were enslaved, regardless of whether they were Muslims. Even in Muslim states, the free were not safe from being kidnapped for subsequent sale of slaves.
Read.
Sometimes it might have seemed that no one was beyond the catchment areas or area of such abuses.
So we're going to show you, we're showing you, according to history, how Islam began to gain its notoriety and power to have a religion to be reckoned with on the level of mass religions like Christianity that had a head start, which had head starts. It was through the sword, folks, forcing people into believe in this or die. Rape, pillaging, destroy it. And they'll come in our neighborhood and push it and claim, oh yeah, it's just a way of life, without giving our people in our neighborhoods this particular history on how Islam was founded on the bloods of the children of Israel. Read.
It says here, even in Muslim states, the free were not safe from being kidnapped for subsequent sale as slaves.
So they would kidnap us. This was before the so-called Roots narrative we see with that made-up story, Roots by Alex Haley. Y'all know that story was made up, right? Not to say that, that unjust things didn't happen. That Roots story was a bunch of, they even admitted it was a lie later down the line. Sometimes, read.
Sometimes it might have seemed that no one was beyond the catchment area of such abuses. In 1391 through 92, for instance, King Uthman ibn Idris, the ruler of Bornu around Lake Chad in Black Africa, sent a letter to protest the Mamluk regime in Egypt.
Read.
The Arab tribes of Jodham and others have taken our free subjects.
Now, we had African kings writing Egypt and saying, well, listen, y'all, let me tell you, you all are stealing people who are free people amongst the children of Israel in Africa. They were breaking every international law known to man. And this was before the white man and others began the transatlantic slave trade. And it's deep that everyone that's fighting over the Middle East now all have a history of enslaving our people. Interesting, isn't it? But where's the anti-Israelite laws throughout history with the evil that have been executed against our people from Esau as well as Ishmael? So now you had a king write them and say, well, hold up, man, y'all stealing free people. They had a whole machine going on with Arabs who were Muslims coming into our area, stealing our people, coming into Africa, our children out there playing, now they're missing. And I'm saying this, folks, because, folks, what do you think going to happen when they allow a lot of these unscrupulous people in our communities? without any checks or balances, knowing exactly who's coming over. What do you think is going to happen? We're going to hear about more kidnappings. We're going to hear about more murders. And everything that happens in our community, they're going to blame on us. Watch what I tell you. When this is their history. They have a history for this. And every little crime that happens in our areas, when they come over here with that madness, is going to be blamed on our people, and it's going to lead to more destruction on the children of Judah here in America. Read on.
The Arab tribes of Jodham and others have taken our free subjects, women and children.
Women and children. This is why they wanted to set the stage first, to separate women from children, so that there'll be no defense when what? When the asylum seekers come. See? They had to make it where there'll be no men to defend the community when they allow all of these men to come over into the community. This was strategic, I believe. Read.
Women and children and old men of our own family and other Muslims. These Arabs have pillaged our land, the land of Bornu, and continue doing so. They have taken as slaves free men and our fathers, the Muslims, and they are selling them to the slave dealers of Egypt, Syria, and elsewhere.
They were selling us at this time, folks. Read.
And keep some of them for themselves.
Read. In the early 19th century.
The early 19th century Swiss-born John Louis Bucart, while journeying through Nubia, met up with a slave dealer, Haji Eli El Bornawe, whose apparent sanctity of conduct and related great reputation did not preclude inconsistent practices. To hear him talk of morals and religion, one might have supposed that he knew vice only by the name. Yet Haji Ali, who had spent half his life in devotion, sold last year in the slave market of Medina his own cousin, whom he had recently married at Mecca. The circumstance was well known in the caravan, but the Haji nevertheless still continued to enjoy all his wanted reputation. At one or another commercial center in Islam, the slave dealer would generally co-sign his stocks to a broker or dalal who might dispose of the more desirable and correspondingly expensive items by private sale or otherwise included them with the rest for public sale in the slave market.
Hold that. So now when we look at the slave market, we have to do the research, not of our modern times with their revisionist history. We have to look at the people who owned the ships, the bill of sales, who was over the caging of the people, right? The transport of the people, right? The logging of the people, and the slave markets, not just in America, but throughout the earth. And when you look at these people and the religions of these people, it makes one begin to scratch their head. And then you'll wonder, okay, if they were behind all of this, how can they be fighting over there for that? And have a biblical basis for it. Well, folks, y'all looking in the wrong place for the holy war. We've always been on the, I would say, the wrong end of the holy war. We've always been in war. It's just that because our people don't understand we're Israelites, we don't even understand we've been born in it. From the time that Hasmonean fight during the time when the Idumeans, who are Edomites, were converted into Judaism, to a point where they became king and sought to kill Christ. From the time after that, a prophecy happened where the same Edomites would destroy our people and have it where our people would flee into Egypt. To where the Arabs would now find us in Timbuktu, go back and tell the Romans to get finance to begin to enslave us over in Africa. Up until the time of the transatlantic slave trade, to a time present. You don't even realize, we never realized that we were all a part of one big conspiracy. Now that we understand the players in the game, what are we to do? Knowing is half the battle. The Bible states, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. No, guess what? We're not here to try to seek vengeance or harm anyone. Knowing is half the battle, folks, because the majority of their power is psychological warfare. See? The majority, a lot of what they're doing cannot have been done unless they had us thinking how we were thinking. 90% of their battles, their warfare is psychological. So what are we to do? We need to understand the enemy as our forefathers did and operate with them accordingly. See? We're all on this earth together. It's not as if David didn't correspond and do business and operate with the nations who hated him. But he understood they hated him. See? Business is business. But you can only go but so far. You cannot politically align with me, and you cannot align with me when it comes to the future of my prodigy or my genealogy. You have no say politically for me, and you have no say for my people. See? Your religion is for your people. I can correspond and do business with you like everyone else, but you will not influence our children. These children belongs to God. And we have the power as parents to take our power back, to teach our children the strength that comes with hedging, being hedged by God by following God's law. And have respectful children and say, well, listen, all due respect to you, teacher, we don't celebrate Halloween. We don't celebrate Christmas. We don't celebrate Easter. We don't deal with Sunday worship. And they ask you why. Listen, I don't have to explain my religion to you. Okay? Outright, it's my religious belief, and I'm not here to explain what that belief is. Okay? I just don't do it. What do you follow? I follow Sabbath. I follow God. I follow Christ. And the Bible teaches as much life within us, be at peace with all men. I respect your position, but I can in good faith follow paganism. We ought to walk away from Islam. We ought to walk away from Christianity, and we ought to come back to the fold of Israel. See? So we're not saying to do anything wrong, no, to anyone. What we're saying is understand the conspiracy of your enemy, and if you now are subjected to the harms of that conspiracy, it's no fault but your own. Because you don't have to engage. We cannot align ourselves with the people who've always destroyed us. We need to come back to God, come back to Christ, and help one another. And in turn, our God will help us. We can't seek to this political system for help. You see, the more we ask, the more they double down on destroying us. And I'm going to tell you, and I said it amongst the Patreon. Y'all got to get on that Patreon too. I said it last week. Don't be surprised if some Manchurian candidate who looks like us, that some war-torn child that they raised who look like us, don't be surprised if one of the next events this year out there is where they'll dress up one of their Manchurian candidates who look like us and have some big event happen to claim that Israelites did something. Don't be surprised if it happened, because they did this in 70 AD. They did it as a pretext of 70 AD and 64 AD during the time of Nero, where some cities were burned and it was blamed on Israelites who were Christians. Elder Lawyer?
Yes, sir.
We're at the end. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and 64. Who are we? And never forget the past. So the Most High is not giving us this information to seek vengeance. Vengeance is the Lord's. Folks, we have won already. Understand that. We won. The Most High will be done. We're next. So understand, vengeance is of the Lord's. We're not using this, we're not reading this to start looking at other people, negatively. Because I can't paint all people with a broad brush. In order for them to lie to us, they had to lie to everyone, including these people who are Arabs and others who are ignorantly under these religions and believing they're doing the right thing. I believe there's good people throughout the world who haven't ran into this yet. And this is why I interact with all people, regardless of their religion, with respect. We're not to use the history as a platform or a place to disrespect others. No, the Most High didn't give us this to run around hating people. He gave us this to understand the war we were born under. And above all, the only refuge is to come back under his protection. This is why I'm bringing it forth. Because the Gentiles are going to do what they do until the Most High put them underfoot. But I'm no longer participating in our own demise and helping them bury our people. Neither should you. See? Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 real quick.
Yes, sir. Deuteronomy 28 and 64.
Hold up, before you go to 64, right? Mm-hmm. So because of our sin, because we didn't listen to God's law, he put us under curses. But Christ came to take away that curse. Right? So now, if you choose to be ignorant and fall under the curses or the judgment that comes through these curses, that's on you. Okay, you can believe this and continue to walk in darkness and be destroyed, or rethink how you've been viewing this Bible. Get out of that thing. It's a white man's book. We've been following religion for years and haven't gotten us nowhere. No, we've been following lies on our Bible. When you deal with the truth, you'll understand the only way back is this book. Deuteronomy 28, Elder Lloyd. Let's read, let's get here. 64. And give me the dumb stone too. The book of Nahum. Deuteronomy 28 and 64. Can you read that, Elder Lawyer?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Deuteronomy 28, verse number 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth, even unto the other.
And that has happened. Because of our sin, we were scattered throughout the earth. But the Most High didn't leave us for dead, folks. It was a lesson. That if we want that holy land that was given to our foreparents, that was given to Moses, right? Now we have to become the holy people who have worked to deserve such a land. There'll be no need to to get the land how they're doing it right now. Okay? There's no need for that. The Bible told Esau that he'll live by the sword. So in order for him to get a land, he must now take a sword and go to war. Okay? That's not how we're going to get it. We're going to get it by getting on code with one another and believing our God so that he can fight our battles, so that he can stand before us in battle when Christ returns. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all nations. Read.
From the one end of the earth even unto the other.
And that happened. Read.
And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Even wood and stone. Other gods like your Caesar Borgia, this white criminal they put up to be Christ, who's not a god at all, was an actual man, a swine eater, an incester. He had incest with his sister Lucretia. Okay? And they put the image of that dead man on a cross that had nothing to do with Christ. Christ lives. That's your wood. The pagan Tammuz cross of the Roman Catholic Church. The stone is that lie in Mecca. That rock that they claim was a meteorite who came down, which was really also, believe it or not, the worship of what? A woman's fertility. When you do the research on it, it was a god by the name of Alat Uzza. Not Allah, a female deity, which is the what? The mother/wife of Nimrod. That's the god they're worshiping at the rock. And the Most High said that if we didn't follow him, we would eventually fall to following these lesser gods, these idols that have been erected by the Gentile nations who hate us. And here's the last curse. Read it.
Verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
We never went into ancient Egypt again. This is speaking of bondage a second time by the means of cargo slave ships. The Arabs had a hand in it, Ishmael, and so did Esau. The Romans, the Europeans. Doesn't matter what religion they follow. It can be Christianity, it can be Judaism, it can be Buddhism, whatever their religion, it doesn't matter what religion they follow. They're Edomites. They're Edomites. And the Lord shall bring thee into slavery a second time by the means of ships, and all of these nations had a hand in this curse right here. Read.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
And the Most High was telling Moses that if we sin against this law that was given on Mount Sinai, that this slavery would be the last slavery or servitude our people would serve before the promise, before the fulfillment of promise. There it says, thou shalt see it no more again. The transatlantic slave trade was the last leg of our servitude. We've been suffering under slavery since they sacked Jerusalem in 70 AD. And he says, this is our last one, folks. We're this close. Read. And there
ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen.
So I wonder what lawyers drafted the paperwork for properties during the time of chattel slavery. I wonder who were the lawyers drafting the paperwork and the bill of sales. I wonder who owned the auction blocks. I'm just curious. I wonder what religion they follow. They followed back then. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen, a slave man sold to Mr. Smith down in Kentucky, sold to Mr. Johnson down in Alabama, sold to Mr. Washington down here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, sold to Mr. Jefferson, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You shall be sold unto your enemies. It's speaking of the conspiracy, Ishmael and Esau. Read.
For bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
And no man will save us out of our condition. And brothers and sisters, understand you can vote until your arm fall off. No man in any political position is going to save us. They're not going to do anything for us outside of our conspiracy. And they'll always lean towards financing everyone else to destroy the lost tribes of Israel. So wake up. Come back while there's time. This concludes our lesson for today, the Edomite Ishmaelite history. I'm glad I got all that out. I wasn't able to share some of this during our last lesson in the academy, but I didn't want some of this good information to go to waste, so I wanted to share it with you all today. And again, if you want to understand how we be breaking it down from the rooter to the tutor, get into that academy. Go to historytimes.org. Tomorrow we'll be going into a man's purpose, according to God. The first time ever taught in the academy like we're going to teach it. That's right, folks. What week are we in right now?
We're going into week 7.
We're going into week 7, actually. Week 7. So if you do get in, we'll still give you the past lessons to catch up. You can still get in while there's time. We still have a full month and a half to go with this academy. So you can still get in. Go to historytimes.org, and you men, young men, it doesn't matter. You want to be a part of this lesson. We're going to speak about God's purpose for man since the beginning and how we can get on code with him. And by doing so, everything else fall in place, whether it be money, whether or not it be that the Most High would bless you with a wife one day or children. Maybe you have family already and you have to now what? Because you have to get back your power in your house so that you can actually rise as a family and leave a legacy on earth. So it doesn't matter whether or not you're single, you're married, whatever the case is. Men, you want to be in that lesson tomorrow. Wisdom that you wish we would have obtained during our time here, in Babylon. And next week, we're going into the purpose of a woman. The full breakdown on comparing a woman whom the Most High find favor with, comparing her to wisdom and the Holy Spirit. Man, I'm excited about these next 2 lessons, and I'm sure you will be also. Again, go to historytimes.org, and again, you can support the church right here, our lessons. When it comes to support, because they don't want to allow any incentivizing, even though every other channel has it, but they won't allow this channel for some reason, right? So if you want to help the church, as you can see right there, $GOCC 144 donate, okay? $GOCC 144 donate. If you don't have that, it's okay. Go to gatheringofchrist.org, okay? And look under donate, which will give up more options outside of Cash App. Also, I would like to tell you all I'm looking forward to our new website we're about to launch soon. And also that's going to be in Spanish. We're going to have one site in English, a whole other same site in Spanish. And we look to do one in French later, whatever the case is. But right now, I'm looking forward to this gospel being taught throughout the earth before the curtains come down. We have some time, not a lot of time, but we have some time. Let's come together under the hedge of the Almighty. We thank you for your presence today. Like, share, subscribe, let others know that we're here. And may the Most High be with you. Stay prayed up, sin not, and keep in mind that the Most High is calling back the children of Israel. All right? Blessings.
The East is where we're from. The 12 tribes of Israel. And 721 BC, the Assyrian king, he took us down, we fell. With a great escape we went through the Euphrates. The Lord held the water still. To a land where no mankind dwelt, we went. The 12 tribes of Israel. So we be Manasseh, the Cubans, Ephraim from Puerto Rico, Naphtali from the Isles of Hawaii. The Lord is calling back Israel. Zebulon from Panama, Gad, the North American Indians, Simeon, the Dominicans, the highest gathering Israel. The Arabs and Africans told us at gunpoint. Together our wives and children then sold us.